Right. Well, I was talking about astrology, and I think we'd covered that the Bible, right from the very beginning, made it quite clear that as a system it was defunct, it didn't work. That was quite a striking thing for the Bible to say at the time, bearing in mind that every culture on the planet at that point had some form of astrology, were to some extent or other worshipping the sun and the moon. The Bible, of all systems, was the only one to stand against this, and it's really striking. It's one of the unique things about the Bible compared with other books. One of the unique things about Judaism, that it was consistently dedicated to the fact that there was one creator God. This was the unique revelation that Israel carried through the ages, and thank God they did, because otherwise we'd all be worshipping the sun and the moon. A lot of people would consider that perhaps there's no harm in just, playing along with astrology. Oh, I'd quickly like to correct a point I made earlier. I said I thought that the sun and the moon and the stars were made on the third day. Of course, it was the fourth. What's wrong with reading your tarot cards, or with reading your star signs, etc.? What's actually wrong with just sort of playing it a bit like a game? Well, I suppose what's wrong with it is, obviously, God doesn't like it. Now, he doesn't like it, not because he's a spoilsport, but because he wants what's good for us. There's a passage in Jeremiah 7:19, which I'm going to read to you. Jeremiah 7:19. He's talking about people worshipping the Queen of Heaven. If you look at what he says, "Do they provoke me to anger, saith the Lord? Do they not provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces?" Well, you might think, what on earth does that mean? Yes, God is provoked to anger when we worship the creation rather than the creator. Of course he's provoked to anger, but the word anger that is used, the word is chaos. It means anger, but it also means grief, and God's grieved by us as well as angered by what we do. Those two emotions, very intricately bound up. God's anger is also grief because we have departed from him. If you've ever been in love, you may know that feeling. If you've ever had a child who does something wrong, you may know that feeling. I'm fortunate, I've got a very good lad, so he's not provoked me to that kind of anger. But it's something that happens, if somebody rejects you, treats you abysmally, that makes you angry. But if at the same time as them rejecting you, they are also harming themselves through their rejection, you grieve. Of course you grieve. So, by worshipping objects rather than the Creator, we move God to grief as well as anger. The other thing that he says is that we cause our own confusion or shame, and the word there is boseth. God doesn't want us to do these things because he doesn't want us to be shamed. He doesn't want us to injure ourselves. He doesn't want us to harm our hearts. And it's a case of God doesn't want us to make fools of ourselves. He will not be mocked. No matter what we say about him, no matter what we do, he will never be made a fool of. But he doesn't want us to make fools of ourselves. He doesn't want us to be degraded. He doesn't want us to be cheapened. So when God says that by worshipping these things we are causing our confusion, we're causing our shame, he's trying to get us to look at this the way he looks at it, and to see it with the significance that he sees it as. In the passage, whole families are involved in false worship. it says that the people, as families, the children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, the women knead their dough, make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, pour out drink offerings to other gods, and provoke God to anger. Well, whole families become involved in the occult even yet. People will have horoscopes drawn for their children when they're born. Mums and daughters will sort of sit and gossip over a cup of tea and a cake or something and read their star signs and have a giggle about it. What the children are doing in Jeremiah 7, what these families are doing, probably very enjoyable experiences for the family, but it provokes God, not just to anger but to grief, and it causes confusion and shame and humiliation to the people who are indulging in these activities. That's what's wrong with astrology. God hates it because it dishonours him, and he hates it because it dishonours ourselves. As I said in the previous video, God created the stars, the sun, the moon, for his purposes, but they are to serve us, not us serve them. The other really nice thing, again from Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 2, God tells us that we shouldn't be dismayed by superstition. What starts off as a game can too easily and far too quickly become real or seem to be real to the participators of these customs. And God says in Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2, "Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them." God says, do not be dismayed. I know people who've been horrified because the moon is in the wrong phase, or they think, I can't do anything today because the moon is void of course and all that kind of thing. Well, I actually used to be one of these people. I used to think, I can't possibly do anything today because my opposite sign is in the wrong house and it's going to cause all manner of confusion. Basically, I was making a fool of myself. God doesn't want us to make fools of ourselves. So he says, do not be dismayed. So my message to anybody who sort of takes these things seriously is, don't take them seriously. Do not be dismayed. God is in control, not the stars, not the sun, not the moon. You don't have to sort of fatalistically go along with the stars. You can actually be liberated from it. I was liberated from it. I was liberated from stupid superstitions that were controlling my life. I know people who can't make any life decision without checking the tarot cards, without casting I Ching, without casting runes, etc. If you're going to make any important life decisions, wouldn't it be better to talk to God, rather than throwing down a couple of chopsticks and seeing what pattern they fall in when you're reading the I Ching? Wouldn't it be better to speak to your Creator, who knows you intimately and desires the best thing for you? So if you do take astrology seriously, I hope these videos have been of some help, and I pray that you will be released from the bondage of astrology as I was. Thank you, and God bless.